I built a business, raised kids, taught fitness classes, showed up every single day without knowing that my brain was working 3 times as hard just to get average results. And honestly, all of that is thanks to social media. What I mean by that is about 3 months ago, I got diagnosed with ADHD. And it wasn't because of anything that I learned myself. It was literally because I was on social media and I saw a bunch of videos that resonated with me. I dug deeper and decided to get tested, and come to find out, I have had ADHD my entire life. This is probably gonna be one of the more vulnerable and conversational videos that I've put out. I kind of figured that I could go about this one of 2 ways. One way is just kind of share the facts, and the other way is to give like the real, raw, vulnerable reasons that I thought that I had ADHD. Honestly, that is like shining a light on the parts of me that I don't love and the parts of me that I've quite honestly like really struggled with for a really long time, and I'm gonna talk about this later. But I think I owe it to you guys to talk raw and real about this topic, because I am so grateful that others went before me to talk about their experience here on social media about their diagnosis with ADHD and the things that they struggle with as an adult, maybe as a kid, because without that, I quite literally would have never been diagnosed. Okay, so just a little bit of background on ADHD. I do have my notes down here, so I might be looking at them because is that not like the most ADHD thing ever? Like, I need to stay on track. I've been keeping notes about things that have popped up in my brain about this topic for the last like 2 weeks, because I didn't want to make this video and be like, oh, I should have added that. Oh, I should have added that. So I have my notes here. So if I look down, that's why. Anyway, ADHD is not a focus problem. ADHD is literally your brain being rewired a different way. So everybody's brain runs on dopamine, but if you have ADHD, the dopamine system doesn't regulate the same way. And I'm still learning about all this, so I could be very wrong. And if I am, just leave a comment below. So basically how I understand this is the brain is constantly looking for enough stimulation to focus correctly. The other thing that I've learned recently is that there are 3 types of ADHD. I'm gonna focus in and hone in on 2 of them, because I think they're the 2 that we see the most. So we have the hyperactivity ADHD, and I think that this, from my understanding, is a lot more common in boys. So when you think of like a young boy who has a lot of energy, they can't sit down, they are bouncing off the walls, like that is one type of ADHD. And let me look, that is hyperactive ADHD. And then there's inattentive ADHD, which is what I have. And this one seems to be a lot of like girls have this, and that's why a lot of girls go under the radar with getting diagnosed. So basically what this looks like is zoning out, mental fatigue, maybe emotional overwhelm. It looks a lot different. So let me talk about what made me even start to think that I might have this. The first trigger was that I saw on Instagram a clip of a Mel Robbins podcast talking about her ADHD, and it captured me enough to go listen to the full podcast. Now, I'll say when I was listening to her podcast, I didn't resonate with everything. If you haven't listened to it and you think that you might have it, it might be a good place to start. But essentially, she got diagnosed because her son got diagnosed. And I think that's pretty common. A lot of women, and we can talk about this later, they get diagnosed when their kids get diagnosed because they realize that they too have the same issues, I guess. There were some things that she was talking about, like she was always late to things. Time management was really hard for her in terms of like leaving at the right time, that type of stuff. And it didn't really resonate with me. And I want to talk about this later, but I do want to point that out. So I only resonated with like 75% of it. So I didn't like walk away from that podcast being like, oh my gosh, that is me to a T. But it did open my mind a little bit more to just the possibility that there could be an underlying reason for the way that I was feeling. So I want to talk about all of the symptoms that I personally have and had, and honestly, so many of them I did not know were symptoms of ADHD, which is why I want to talk more about them. Okay, the first one is exhaustion. I am not talking about like I am tired because my baby did not sleep last night, or I'm tired just because I've been running on fumes. I am talking about a debilitating, crippling exhaustion that I was feeling every single day. Like the amount that I would sit on the couch. I think that I always said oh, I just I'm a homebody and I like being cozy but like being on the couch or being in bed, I was so tired. I literally could not do tasks day to day. And this is kind of where I started to notice. So I know that I said that a lot of people start to notice because their kids are diagnosed. And one of the things that made me realize that maybe my body, my brain worked a little bit differently was being married to my husband. And it was because I would observe him and observe the way that he was able to complete tasks and the way that he had energy in his body, and we were essentially doing the same thing, taking care of kids, being up in the middle of the night, all of that. And he just showed up in a way that I literally couldn't fathom myself showing up as. This is crazy because looking back, I had asked him so many times, I verbally asked him. I would be sitting on the couch and I would be like, God, I'm so tired. I just wish that just for a day, we could switch bodies so that you could tell me if this level, if this is what you feel like in your body when you say I'm tired, because I am so tired. I would say that to him all the time. I just want to switch bodies with somebody for you to tell me if this is what you feel like when you're tired. And I think I should have listened to my intuition then, because honestly, looking back, the fact I was even saying that, the fact that I was even asking that just tells me that I knew internally that my body was a different level of exhaustion. But let's be honest, I'm a woman. I think that when we start to feel those that chronic level of exhaustion, we immediately go to my levels are off on some way, somehow, my hormones are off or my vitamin D is off. And that's kind of what started this whole thing, is that I was I'm just gonna start ruling out things to be okay, is my vitamin D low? Because if it is, that would explain the exhaustion, right? So that being able to observe him was something, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, even more task related, but the exhaustion, why can't I have that type of energy to unload the dishwasher at the end of the day? I just don't understand. Okay, and this next one is the one that makes me very vulnerable, because I'm a big believer, if you have an insecurity or if you don't love something on your body or something like that, why should you talk about it, right? Because if you talk about it, if you're oh, I have a big nose, somebody might have never thought that you had a big nose, and once you bring attention to it, then they're oh yeah, maybe she does. I don't know. But anyway, this piece of it is the piece that's the most vulnerable for me, and probably going to be very hard for me to talk about, because I literally have never talked to anybody about this. I've kind of talked to my husband a little bit, but over the years, but I don't think that anybody knows the level of depth that I struggled with this. And this is the social piece of everything. Let me just lay this out there for you, because maybe you relate in some sort of way. I have always identified as an introvert. I have always in college and before that and even after that, I have felt I have had such a low amount of friends, really close friends. I always envied people with groups and stuff like that. I never had that. The social piece, to me, looking back, is the thing that I honestly probably struggled the most with. What this looked like, somebody is having an in-depth conversation with me. Say they are the person that I have always dreamed of being. They're the life of the party, the extrovert. They're carrying the conversation, telling me a story, and it's in depth. You guys, when I tell you, I look at them in the eyes and I kind of smile and laugh and nod, and I have no idea what the fuck they're saying. No idea. I literally do not feel attached to that conversation at all, nor do I remember it. And I think that because of that, I don't add value to a conversation. So it comes back as somebody's talking to me, telling a story, and it might come off as I don't care. And truth be told, I probably don't care, because I literally can't register what they're saying. It is the weirdest thing to explain unless you probably have it. And then if you have it and you struggle with that as well, then you will completely understand. But it is like, I feel like such an airhead when I'm talking to people in depth conversations, because I just completely zone out. And I think that after looking back a little bit, I think that's why I'm so good at being a fitness instructor, because nobody who ever sees me in a bar studio would ever think, number one, I'm introverted, number two, I struggle with social situations. And the reason is because when it is like I am a leader in that space, and the conversations are short, sweet, and like they're kind of scripted a little bit if you really think about it. Like somebody comes in, I'm like, hey, good morning, how are you? And then they're like, oh, I'm doing good, how are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm good. And then after class, they're like, that was so hard. And I'm like, I know, right? I know exactly what I'm saying. And it's very like short and sweet and to the point. But when somebody goes into a lot like deeper of a conversation, that's where I truly struggle. And this is honestly so sad. I think that I always thought that it was because I was introverted that I was like a little bit socially awkward in situations. And I literally, like, I have proof of this. In my journals for the past couple years. I'm a big journaler. If you follow me, you know, but the way I structure it is I do a thankful list, a prayer list, affirmations list. I literally have been praying for the last couple years in my prayers that like God would give me social skills, because like I felt so insecure about, like networking. Oh my God, there is nothing that sounds worse to me than going out with a bunch of people and networking. Like that literally sounds like my actual worst nightmare. Talking to somebody on the phone, when somebody says that they want to call me, I get hives. It is nothing worse. There is nothing worse. And I really struggled with this in college, because we would like go out to bars or something like that, and we would like be with a big group of people, and I would like clam up and not be able to like know what to say and just feel so socially awkward, and also just like not be able to carry a conversation. When I tell you, anybody else has done this, please comment and tell me that you have, to make me feel not as like weird and alone. But when I tell you that I wanted better social skills so badly, and I'm not talking about when I was like 10 years old, I'm talking about like in my 30s, in my 20s. And I tell you that I would observe and study people that I believed were better socially than me, and how they interacted with people and the things that they would say. Like there was one girl that I picked up on every single time she saw somebody. She was loved. Every single time she saw somebody, she'd be like, oh my God, I love your shirt. Oh my gosh, those pants are so cute on you. Your hair looks amazing. Like that is always how she would start her conversations. Like when I tell you that I have studied people that I'm like, okay, like what do they do that makes them like better in social situations? How do they carry on a conversation? And this has been something that I've struggled with. Like I literally for a long time was like, do I have autism? Social situations are so hard for me. Then even with my good friends that I have, there are moments that I feel like it's hard for me to show up as a really good friend. I have really good intentions, and I will say that about myself. I have really good intentions. Like if it's somebody's birthday, sending a text or something like that, but I have great intentions about like sending them something or doing something, and I just can't follow through with the task. And I think sometimes it makes me feel like a really bad friend, because it's not that I am a bad friend, it's just not on my radar sometimes. Like it's just literally not registering. It's not that I only care about myself. It's not that, whatever. I think that it's just that like I literally can't register that in my brain to like follow through. And then I feel shitty about myself, because I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't send anything, or I didn't do anything, or I feel like I feel so awful as a friend. The other thing is that this goes in with the social piece. And once again, this is like pointing out my flaws. So this is very vulnerable for me. I feel like I have no filter when it comes to talking with people. I'm very blunt in the way that I deliver things a lot of times. And it's something that I've worked on a lot. And it's funny because like I've said this to my husband. He's like, I don't think you are at all. And I just think that I'm like my hardest critic, honestly. I think that I'm so self-conscious of all this, that before I even knew all this, I didn't know that these were things of ADHD. I had no idea. And now that I'm researching it and learning about this, these are very common things. with ADHD. I almost said social media. There is like no small talk in the sense that like I share everything. I am an oversharer. And that's what I think I mean by like no filter is I share my life. And I think that like I've always thought that I'm just vulnerable, but now that I'm researching it more, I think that oversharing is like a part of ADHD. It's just like one of the things. It's like the way that my brain can't like put a stop to the words that come out of my mouth. So I literally either go all in on a conversation or I completely check out, like I talked about before, like the airhead. So I'm either like all in, oversharing. I want to like with my friends, like if I do not have a deep friendship with them, like if we cannot talk about like deep things, just not interested. Like it's just the way that my brain works. I like to have like deep, vulnerable conversations and relationships with people. And that's why for me, when I think I'm just figuring this all out in like real time, but I think that that's why I don't have a ton of friends is because like surface level friendship just ain't it for me. I literally could not be less interested in it. Like truly, just to be blunt, I do not like surface level friendship. And I think that a lot of times friendships have to start surface level unless they're like your person, like you just like, you know, right away you're kind of like in the trenches with them. I think surface level relationship for me, a surface level relationship small talk, like I cannot be bothered. The other thing that is super vulnerable for me that I did a ton for most of my life. I interrupted people and I hated it. Like I hated it. It was like the words that came out of my mouth, like there was no buffer. Nothing could stop me if I had a thought, like it had to come out right away. And so I interrupted people a lot and I knew it. That's the craziest thing is like I knew it and I couldn't stop it. I just thought it was like a part of I've always said I'm impulsive, which maybe this is part of that. And I think that I do just have an impulsive personality. Letting people finish their thought, and I know it's the most annoying thing. Like that's the hardest thing about it. Like letting people finish exactly what they're saying and like working on listening was something I was deeply working on. Like I genuinely was working on. And I think that these aren't things that like most people actively are working on is like as like a 30-year-old being like, okay, like in my brain, I'm having a conversation with somebody and I'm like, okay, let them finish. And then I talk, right? Like that is something I literally was working on. And then I'm gonna circle back to being married to my husband because honestly, like that is truly what brought a lot of this to light. And I think that like he has never said anything and I think he just thought it was my cute personality. And I think I thought it was my cute personality too. But looking back, I'm like, no, it wasn't just my cute personality. Like this is literally my ADHD. And there are things that I do in our marriage that he literally doesn't do. Like if I unload a dishwasher, I swear to the dear Lord Jesus, I will leave 2 forks in. Like I cannot complete a task to finish my life. If I go get something from the cabinet, I close it 3/4 of the way. Like I do not close it all the way. Truly, this is honestly one of the things that like really got to me is that if I wanted to say I wanted to organize the linen closet and I'd been talking about it, I'm like, oh, I need to organize the linen closet. First of all, I talk about it all the time instead of just like doing it, right? I'm like thinking about it in my brain over and over and over again. It hangs over me. I go to bed thinking that I need to organize the linen closet. I wake up thinking I need to organize the linen closet. And then when I tell him, do you mind helping me with the linen closet? He'll be like, sure. And he'll literally, in the 30 minutes of his day, like when there's a crack in it, he will just like go knock it out. Where I swear, if I were to organize the linen closet, it would take me 3 to 4 days. Like I am not kidding you. The level of efficiency that this man has over me is mind-boggling. So much so that I was like, why? Like how can he just knock it out like that? Like why can't I just do that? And it felt so much better when I was able to do things with him because he like would pretty much carry the team all the way. And I would just kind of like, and honestly, looking back in my childhood, like this is very similar as well. If my mom asked me to like help clean the garage, I'd be like diddly daddling and you know, there is nothing in me that would just complete a task. Okay, so now we're going into what kind of was the final straw and how I got diagnosed. So I don't know if there was like a pivotal moment that was my final straw. I think that once I started researching ADHD, I started with the Mel Robbins podcast. Then I started looking at more like on TikTok and Instagram, and then my algorithm kind of kept feeding it to me. So I just kept being like, this is me, this is me, this is me. The exhaustion piece was the piece that took me over the edge. And so much so that I was like, I've got to get this figured out. There was nothing about my brain because honestly, I had no idea. Like looking back, I can see it all of it now. And now that I like feel so much better, I know that I wasn't feeling good then, but I had no idea because that's the only reality I ever knew. It was the exhaustion piece that was taking me out. And just like the ability to start and finish something. And I feel like it was holding me back specifically in my business because I'd have all these really great ideas and I would start them and then I couldn't like execute them fully. And so I felt like it was holding me back. So the exhaustion piece though, I was like, I gotta get this figured out. Like I need to go get blood tests done. I need to get blood work done. I need to just figure out what's wrong with me. And so I don't know why, but I started with the ADHD eval because of all the other things that I had learned that I was like, I don't know, maybe it could be this. So all I did was I went to ChatGPT and I put in providers in my area that diagnosed ADHD with top reviews that if they took insurance or not. And I found one that was near me. It was online. I did the eval without telling my husband. He had no idea I was going to even try to get diagnosed, or not try to get diagnosed, just see if that was a possibility for me. So I didn't tell him until after. But basically all it was like a list of questions. And when I tell you, I pretty much said, like, I checked the box for every single one. She told me halfway through, she was like, girl, you've got this. Like, this is you. We are going to finish this just so we can finish it, but this is you. And it was very freeing in a way. When I was going through the questionnaire, I was like, holy shit. Like the questions she was asking, I was like, I didn't even realize that. Like, I didn't even realize that. But when you ask me directly and I think about it, then yes, like I do these things. She put me on, she gave me options, first of all. She didn't just put me on medication. She gave me options and she was like, there's a couple ways we can do this. You can do therapy and learn some tools to cope with your symptoms or whatever you call them. I have no idea what you call them. Or we can do medication, or we can do a mix of both. And this is kind of crazy, but I was like, honestly, let's just start. I mean, you guys know if you're a mom, like, or if you're not a mom, I don't know. But my life is so full, so busy. Like I couldn't even fathom going to therapy like every 2 weeks to learn tools when I'm like, I have AI and I have TikTok and I have all these other resources of things that I can learn. And honestly, I've made it this far. It told me even in here, but there was a couple things like, when I had said on the Mel Robbins podcast, she was always late. And I was like, I'm actually always early. I'm really early, actually. It takes me an hour to an hour and a half to get out the door. Like the idea of it, packing for it, like it takes me a really long time, but I'm always early. And she was like, yeah, because you're in your 30s. You have created coping skills in order to make it this far, in order to function in a world. Like if you know that it's not okay in society to be late to something, you have found a way for you and your brain to make it happen. Therefore, you're always early. And I was like, that makes sense. I was like, I kind of feel like I'm okay. So we started on a medication called Vyvanse, and we started on literally the lowest dosage. Back a little bit, because this is important, that one of the underlying symptoms of ADHD is anxiety. And if you know me and if you follow me on social media, I talk all the time about my anxiety. It is so bad. So ADHD, a lot of times if you treat your ADHD, your anxiety is minimized, which is crazy. People will treat the anxiety and not know that that is an underlying thing of ADHD, which is exactly what I did. So knowing that I have really bad anxiety, she started me on the lowest dosage, which is 10 milligrams. Ooh, that first week was so hard. Because it's a stimulant, my anxiety, like I could not breathe. I didn't struggle with sleeping. I didn't struggle with any of that. But my anxiety was like, holy shit, I cannot breathe. I cannot function. And it was so hard. And she told me that it would be like that. And she told me that there could be a little like period that I would figure out what dosage was best for me and what kind of medication was for me. And she gave me like a set amount of time. It was like, okay, like I think we should try one more week on this. And if it's just not good, we're going to switch you. You guys, what I didn't know is there's like 100 different ADHD medications. The next one that we were going to try was actually a nighttime one that is slow releasing. So you take it at night and it takes like all of 8 hours to release into your body. So when you wake up in the morning, it's like, boom, ready to go. So there's so many different types that you can do. There's fast releasing, slow releasing, like morning, night, like So many different kinds. So after, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks of having that, I actually was totally fine. I totally was fine. I was like right on track with it. And we actually increased me to 20 milligrams. And I feel like that's like my perfect, exactly where I need to be right now. It's a very low dosage, but it is exactly just kind of like the little edge that I need. And I'll talk about what has changed, but it is literally like it's life-changing for me. Just that little bit is literally life-changing for me. What I mean by that is the things that have changed for me. Number one, the thing that I noticed the most, and I asked my husband if he noticed and he didn't, of course, but you guys, I walk around now and like if there's like a sock, a random sock, I pick it up and put it away. Do people do that? Is that like a thing? Because I was like, is this what it feels like to be type A? Because this is wonderful. Like I love this, that I'm like walking around and as I walk, I like take it and put it to its rightful place. Like I've never done that ever in my entire life. I'm also able to finish things start to finish. And that sounds so mundane, but like if you've never been able to finish something from start to finish, or it's incredibly hard or takes you 10 times longer than the average person, then when you can finish something start to finish in like a decent amount of time, then it will literally change your life. The other thing is the clarity in my brain. Once again, I didn't know that I didn't have clarity in my brain because it's all I knew. But now at night, I'm not like, I have to clean the linen closet. Oh my God, I need to clean the linen closet. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. And then I wake up and I'm like, I have to do this. That was going on in my brain 24/7. I would be teaching a bar class and my brain would be popping off with like the list of things that I need to do and I would fixate on it. That is another symptom. I don't mean to go out of order here, but fixating on things is a symptom of ADHD, like being obsessed with things. Like I'm gonna buy an investment property and all of a sudden I'm like 2 feet in, like yesterday. I'm 2 feet in yesterday, it is all I can think about, right? That clarity piece in my brain is like so huge. And then the exhaustion piece, oh my gosh, like the fact that I have energy to go from morning to night just makes me a better mom, wife, friend, human being. It is crazy how much I did not realize I was so depleted because of my dopamine in my nervous system. Like nothing, I was doing all the right things. I was eating the right things. I was working out. I was getting outside. I was touching grass. I was getting sun. Like I was doing all the things. And I felt so freaking exhausted all the time. And so to have this newfound energy is something that I cannot even explain to people how life-changing it is. And going back to you just don't know what you don't know, I didn't realize how unhappy my brain was. I feel so much happier now as in my brain, in my body, being able to complete a task, being able to go through a list of things to do and like actually do it. It is liberating to say the least. Now I will say I've missed 2 doses. And when you miss a dose I haven't heard anybody talk about this, so I'm going to talk about it. When you miss a dose, the exhaustion that comes with it is like you cannot get off of the couch. Like you cannot move. You're like, oh my God, I need 3 cups of coffee right away. So I will say that if you miss a dose, you definitely can tell, and it's very hard. I don't know. I've seen people that are like, oh, I take it during the week and then I don't take it on the weekend, which my doctor did not recommend, but I don't know how people function if they do that, honestly. And if you do, kudos to you. I think everybody's body is different, but I personally could never. Okay, and then I want to kind of look back a little bit on my childhood because I think that there is some red flags here and maybe you can relate to this. So I was always a B student. Like I was smart. I knew I was smart. I could do all the homework, and when it came to the test, I would just like fail every single one. It didn't matter what I did. I felt so embarrassed and ashamed and just stupid all the time. But GPA wise, I was great, but when it came to tests and stuff, like it would take me 10 times as long to retain information than it would my peers. I really noticed this in college. Like we would be studying and like they'd be like fully zoned in, and every single time a person would walk by, I would look. I couldn't even focus on like what was in front of me, right? So when I become a bar instructor, same thing. Like when I learned choreography, it took me 20 times longer than everybody else to memorize choreography because it was just so hard for me. So much so that I in my childhood on my standardized tests, like my reading comprehension made me look like I was so stupid. I had to get a reading comprehension tutor. I had to go to summer school because my mom was just like, we just got to get this figured out. And looking back, she was trying to support me so much. And I think that something like this just would have been super helpful to know. But like everything, I had tutors to get it was always reading comprehension. Reading comprehension was always like where I would score the lowest, which like now looking back, I'm like, ding, ding, ding. But I don't think we knew as much back then, right? And speaking of that, I do feel like back in the day, there was like a negative connotation with ADHD, ADHD, or ADD, like whatever it is. And it's so funny. Like I feel so, when I got diagnosed, I went to my dad's house and I was like, you will not believe who has a new diagnosis. I was so excited about it. And he was like, what? And I was like, I have ADHD. And he was like, why are you excited about that? And I was like, because if I could achieve what I've achieved without support, watch out world, because I'm about to show the fuck up and I'm about to rule this place with the support and help that I need in order to support this. Like I was so excited. I was like, you don't even know, like I literally just built a business from 0 to 6 figures in a year. And what's gonna happen when I can freaking finish a task? Like what is gonna happen? This world better watch out because the new me is powering through. Like that is the thought that I had in my head. I think that I've noticed a big shift like socially, and I think I've given myself so much grace for the past, and I'm so much more confident even within 3 months in my social interactions and being able to like actually listen to people and understand what they're saying. Crazy how game-changing that is, and also crazy that I didn't realize how much I couldn't do it before, but it has been, seriously, it has changed my life to be on medication for this. So I know that this was a super long video, but my purpose with this was, once again, I was hesitant to do it, but the reason that I found out that I had all of these symptoms and all these symptoms were ADHD was because of social media. And so being a social media manager and strategist, somebody that deeply believes in social media, I kind of felt like, well, why wouldn't I do the same? Why wouldn't I share my story and be raw and vulnerable with the things that I struggle with? Because somebody else then could watch this, and even if 75% of it is you, then you might want to go do your own research and go, check out some more things and go see if this is you. And if it is, that's amazing, because I promise you, if there's anything that I've learned, it's that you deserve to understand your own brain. So comment below if any of this resonated with you, and make sure to follow my page. Love you guys.